So wait, did it skip late? Smeggyster Turner. Hope you're all enjoying your headmaster's holiday. I wanted to just put this up here, the remainder of RP6's recitation, so that we don't lose too much time on Thursday when we meet next. Okay, so if you have some time either today or tomorrow, please take some time to go over this, and that way we can jump right in on Thursday. All right, we did some of it already, so here we go. Hike these things, that's neuter nominative plural, per scribuntur, are recorded consulto, by decree of the Senate. ADVII. We talked a little bit about this on the before the seventh day, 7 days before the Ides of March is what we're saying. So this is sort of Ides of January, This is kind of taken all together. These things are recorded by decree of the Senate 7 days before the Ides of January. Now, the Ides of January occurred on the 13th, and Ian's question in class talked about, well, why wouldn't that be the Nons? There's a brief explanation on page 202 and 203 of your textbook, and I recommend just reading through that for a little more clarity on when the Nons, the Ides, and the Calends of each month fell. And we can talk about it briefly on Thursday as well. Itacque, and so the V there is 5, okay, just as in English. In Latin, it is acceptable to write a cardinal number as its numeral, not as its word, okay? And some teachers would prefer you writing the word to write F-I-V-E instead of the numeral 5, okay? In Latin, you can write the numeral V, which stands for 5, or the word quinque, which would be the word for 5. Caesar chooses to use the numeral as he does frequently. And so on the first 5 days, on which the Senate was able to be held, and I think Caroline said was able to meet, which is a great idiomatic translation. On the habere there would be a literal translation, on which the Senate was able to be held. I would take this all as one thing. From which day Lentulus entered his consulship, and we might say entered into. This is a compound word. It comes from the verb eo ire, which means to go, and then its third singular would be eat. He goes, and then you just have this prefix iniit. He goes into. All right. So something like, from which day Lentulus entered his consulship with, and this is an ablative absolute here, with 2 days for assembly meeting excluded. Okay, again, use your commentary here. Take this as one kind of big chunk. With a 2-day period of assembly meeting excluded. Okay, the biduo there being an adjective, a noun. The comitiali being an adjective modifying the noun, and then the excepto being a perfect participle. All right, I'm going to erase this so we can start here, because we have another we got to go somewhere else for the rest of this. So real quickly, just going through that again. Here's something like, from which day Lentulus entered his consulship, with a 2-day period for assembly excluded. Okay, and then you got to find a subject for this verb, and we don't have one other than this is impersonal verb decernitur. Now go to your commentary for some help with this. This is an impersonal verb, one that we've seen, similar verbs that we've seen before, particularly when talking about procedural things in the Senate. So your commentary gives you, this is on page 96 of your textbook, it says, very severe and harsh decrees were passed. So what does that mean? So you're taking this whole chunk here, very severe and very harsh decrees were passed. Now, what does it literally mean? It is decreed very severely and very harshly. Okay? That's the literal translation if you're looking for it, because these are two superlative adverbs, right? They're not nouns, but your commentary gets a little liberal with the translation, and I think we should take it. All right? I think we should take it. So take this one big chunk together and say, very severe and very harsh decrees were passed. Okay? And then go back up to the et up here. And when you have two ets, et, what does that mean? When you have et, you get both and, right? So, very severe and very harsh decrees were passed, both about both about the imperium of Caesar. And I think you're okay just leaving it as imperium because it meant something so specific. But if you want a meaning or a definition, power, both concerning the Caesar's power and concerning amplissimis viris, esteemed men, distinguished men, and then this is in a positive phrase, the tribunes of the plebs, who would be Marcus Antonius, Mark Antony, and Quintus Cassius. Okay? So very harsh and very severe decrees were passed, both about Caesar's power, Caesar's imperium, and about the esteemed men, the tribunes of the plebs. Okay? And these harsh decrees forced the two tribunes, Mark Antony and Quintus Cassius, to flee. Okay? They were concerned for their safety, okay, not just their political office, but their safety. Being allies to Caesar, I think it was a wise concern. So as a result of these harsh decrees, immediately, the tribuni plebis, the tribunes of the plebs, profugiunt, flee forth, right? Present, this historical present is used throughout Caesar. They flee, fugio, they flee forth ex urbe, from the city or out of the city, que, and they conferunt, they bring themselves to Caesar. Okay? In this confero we saw in that brief passage about Hercules, where he's hunting for the lion and he contulit se into the forest in which the lion lives. It's the same idiom here. So literally, they bring themselves, it's present tense, they bring themselves together to Caesar. Okay? And then this next line, we have Caesar being referred to. The is here refers to Caesar, right? Is. He, this is the Caesarum's the antecedent. He, eo tempora, at that time, erat, was Ravennae, at Ravenna. This is called a locative case. The locative case is used for cities, countries. It can be used for the word home or the word ground. And the form of the locative, even though we would think it looks ablative because it shows location, it usually looks genitive and in some cases dative. Okay? So he at that time was at Ravenna, que, and he was expectaba, and he was awaiting their responsa, the replies to his, suis there refers to Caesar, to his lenissimis, to his most lenient demands. Okay? Most lenient demands. So he at that time was at Ravenna, and he was awaiting replies to his most lenient demands. And the si qua there, we could idiomatically take as something like in the hope that. Okay? That might be our best bet, but we could just say if, or in the hope that if the matter, by some equitate, by some equity of men, if the matter by some equity of men might be able to be deducere, to be led down to otium, to peace or to resolution. Okay, so we've seen this before where Caesar takes a little time to say something simple, where, if by some equity of men, the matter at hand, the dispute at hand, the res there being a very common Latin word, the matter might be able to be led down to otium, to resolution, to peace, to leisure. Okay? We'll be sure to look at a map tomorrow to show the distance, or Thursday I should say, to show the distance that the tribunes had to travel from Rome to get to Ravenna. It wasn't exactly around the corner. And Ravenna also was an important site, an important seat or city, not just in Roman history, but also in the early Catholic Church. All right, thanks for taking the time to go over this, and I will see you all on Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your time off.